Okay, welcome back to the Skill Economy, the podcast about closing the gap between what school and university teach and what the real world actually expects. In today's episode, we've got Liam, founder of StudentVenture, on a mission to revolutionize recruitment. Liam's doing some cool stuff at the moment. He's partnered with UniDays, doing some stuff with Simon Squib, running events at Revolut. It's pretty big. And today we're going to touch on all things recruitment, Liam's journey, trends he's seeing, and much more. So, Liam, how's your day going?
Yeah, no, George, thank you for having me. And yeah, the day's going well. Like I said to you earlier, I've only been up an hour or two. So we're filming this in the morning. So ready to conquer the day, do this podcast, and then yeah, get to work.
Sweet. Yeah, we're on different time zones. I'm in Bali for context, so it's like getting late in my day now, and Liam's getting up early. So I'm excited. Let's start your day off fun. I think the first thing I'd love to dive into, Liam, is like we're just gonna dive straight in. You're the founder at Student Ventures. It's solving a tough problem. Why did you start this business? What led you to getting into it?
The reason I started the business, I'd say I've always been looking to solve problems. When I was 15, I was selling stuff at school, like Gucci belts and Armani belts and stuff like that imported from China. And then that led to selling chewits and sweets, which then led to me selling shoes. So I used to paint shoes and then sell them. Then I started my own clothing brand, like I think most people do when they're like 18. So I started printing on Photoshop, creating these cool designs, and then I would print them out. So I bought a bespoke printer, print them out, and then I'd iron them onto shirts and then start selling them. And that was really the MVP. And then that led to me buying more clothes from an actual wholesaler and yeah, just trying to sell that. So I did that for a while. And then I went to university. At university, I didn't do too much for 2 years, and then I had an app idea which was to solve student loneliness. So what I saw, and it's still a really good idea if anyone's listening and wants to wants to
Stealing.
jump. So if you look at societies at the moment or at the universities, you've got societies, they live in their own little bubble. So if you don't go to the chess society at the start of the year, you're not going to know what's happening in the chess society 6 months down the line. So there's really a barrier to entry once you haven't been there when they first open. And so my idea was basically to open these up and to allow people to know what's going on throughout university every single day. Because from my experience, I just never knew. It seemed like university was a little bit dead, but it wasn't. I just wasn't seeing the information. So had these ideas. I was working at a startup at the time, which was cleaning cars. And so I'd clean cars. It was meant to be like the new Uber Eats for car cleaning. And so I helped grow that for a while. I was riding a bike with like 100 kilograms worth of water in the back, driving around Brighton or riding around Brighton cleaning
No.
cars. That kind of taught me the guy who I was doing it with. He was like 35, was spending quite a lot of money on the business, but he was just getting stuff done. He was like, it doesn't need to be perfect. Let's just try this. Let's try that. Let's knock on doors and let's put leaflets on cars and let's just try and get this sold. And we was just trying so many different things, and that taught me like it doesn't have to be perfect to start. Anyway, I went to him and I was like, I've got this idea. Could you help me with it? And he was like, I'm too busy at the moment. And then that stopped. Then, long story, but I'll get to the point where I started Student Venture. I was in Prague with a friend of mine, and we were like, how do we live in Prague all of the time? Like, how university is nearly finished, and I need to do something with my life. I've applied for hundreds of jobs, I haven't got any. What is the solution? What can I actually do with my life? And so we began a marketing agency, and so we hit up insurance companies and said we can do research papers, thought leadership pieces, content writing for you, and we've got the best students in the UK. So they were like, okay, cool, let's see some work. We was like, okay. So then we found some students who were doing PhDs, masters, and then we connected them to each other, and then we'll take a fee in the middle. And that grew quite a lot. And that was in my third year of uni. So most of my time was building the company rather than the degree. Once I graduated, we continued on this journey, but then ChatGPT came out and that made it very difficult to sell this because the content writing, the laborious tasks, AI can now do this to a very similar level to what we was doing before. And so that really destroyed that business. So then time continued and I still saw that there was a challenge. I was at university, didn't know what industry I wanted to go into really. I had an idea that I wanted to be an investment banker, but I didn't really know what they did. I felt like I didn't have the right skills that the job market needed me to have. And I was applying for hundreds of different jobs and wasn't hearing back. And that problem, I felt that quite deep. And so I wanted to solve that in some shape or form. And so we started building StudentVenture. And StudentVenture was built to solve this problem of this disconnect between industry and university and to showcase human potential. I feel like a lot of people at university at the moment, they're very skillful, they've got a lot of talent, but there's no medium for them to really showcase that. They might be like, okay, I'm going to show that I'm the best researcher and start posting Instagram videos. But then the Instagram videos are there to be entertaining. And what you're doing, if you're doing some research, it's very difficult for you to compete with these big Instagram stars and stuff like that. Same with LinkedIn. It's not there for early talent. And so what we're creating is a talent discovery platform for young people to showcase their skills, their dissertations, their portfolios, their intro videos, and to really showcase who they are. So then employers can really find you for your potential and what you can do rather than just the CV. And so, yeah, we've been on this mission for a while. We've got a really good team behind us. We've partnered with Uni Days, and now it's really just taking each day as it comes and trying to scale. But yeah, that's
Awesome. No, I
what
love it. So you were the guy that sold sweets at school. That's we had that guy at our school, man, and I was always like, that guy's gonna do something, you know. But what if those like, you've done some of that early stuff then a lot of people like I never did that. I didn't start thinking about business until I was like 20, 21. I didn't get into that stuff. What are those early days of like trying to run a sweet shop, trying to hustle and lug stuff around on a bike to go cleaning places, like founders associate type stuff as well? What did you learn during those days that's helped you a lot?
I would say so I used with the belt scenario. So we founded an exporter in China, and we could buy Gucci belts. I don't think it's legal to be honest, but I don't think it matters. We found people who would sell Gucci belts, and they weren't real Gucci belts, so we'd get them to sell them for around like £3, and that would be with the packaging and the delivery. They would then come to the UK, and then I used to sell them for £20 in school. And so I used to just go around saying, who wants a Gucci belt? And then we'd have like 20 orders. And I was like, okay, cool. So I spend £60 and I make £400. And I was like, okay, that's really cool. So from very early, I could see, okay, there's value to be made. You just need to basically, you need to be a broker. You need to actually find two different groups of people because they could have easily gone and done the same thing. They could have easily gone to the same people I did. They just couldn't be bothered, or they just didn't know who they were. They didn't look, and it wasn't that difficult to find. So that's what I saw really from that. When I started selling sweets, I was doing it really at the same time. So I would just get my mum to buy some chewits from Poundland, and at the time you could buy like an 8 pack for £1. And then I used to sell them for 50p, and I was like, "This is crazy." And then I'd go on the bus, and I would make like £10 every day, and I was like, "Okay, cool." And then I would pay for my literally my matcha tax. That would pay for my
Mm.
school dinners, etc., etc. And I'd come back with yeah, like £10 a day, not huge amounts, but yeah, it was decent at the time, and it got me through secondary school.
No, it
Um,
was always the Chewits, man. Like
yeah, it's always true.
the strawberry Chewits, I was like, yeah, take my money,
Yeah.
like take it all.
I had the strawberry chewits a couple of days ago for the first time in 2 years, and they're still as good as what they were back in the day. They are banging. They're so good. And then obviously then I went to college, and then I had two businesses at college. That was the painting shoes one and the clothing brand. With the painting shoes, my friend bought these shoes and they were Air Forces. So the Air Forces cost at the time like 80, now they're like 140 or something crazy. But at the time they were like £80. And he bought them for 140, 150 because they had some paint on them. And I was like, surely we can just create a business doing this. I was like, it's not too hard. And so I was like, okay, let me just do it. Let me just try it. And so I got some old Air Forces. I bought some paint, some like shoe paint, and I started just splattering paint. And yeah, they looked decent. They looked good. And then I started selling them for 140 myself and started competing with this company. What that kind of showed was that you just have to do it. I feel like a lot of people make excuses, especially when I'm talking to friends or people I know. You'll have a really good idea, and instead of just going and doing it, in the back of their mind, they're like, okay, this could go wrong or this is going to happen. I really feel like you just got to do it and try it. And all I had to do was buy paint, practice on an old pair of shoes, and then I had a business and I was selling shoes at like a profit of £60 per shoe, which was decent. Then with the clothing brand, again, same thing. I spoke to a friend. I was like, I want to start a clothing brand. And so instead of saving up £200-300, I got a printer for £30. I designed the stuff in Photoshop and then I ironed them onto old white clothes, t-shirts. And it cost me like literally £30 to start that business. And then I was going around in college with my own clothes and I was like, okay, this is cool, this is sick. And then I started selling them. And then lastly, just with Scrub Club, so the car cleaning business. I think that I learned the most there because again, what I said was from doing that, I was like, you don't actually need to have an idea on what you're doing. You don't need to be perfect. Like the guy I was doing it with, he didn't know what, and I don't think this is probably why it hasn't gone that well, to be honest. But you can learn some stuff from this. Is he had no idea about car cleaning. He didn't know how to clean a car. He had no idea on how to grow it. I think one morning he was like, okay, I'm just going to start this business. And then he was like, just doing whatever he could to try and grow the business. And so he was making a lot of mistakes, but then we'd make a mistake and we'd be like, okay, we're not going to do this again. Let's try this. Let's try that. Let's try this. And then, yeah, that's what I learned from that experience was you just got to go, really just got to go do it and take risks. And yeah.
I mean, there's like 5 different business models a young person could like take from that and try. They all work.
Yeah.
That's cool. And so then
Yeah.
obviously you finished up uni. It's pretty uncommon to like not go and get a grad job and to decide that you want to start your own business. Like why? Like
The
why did
re
you decide, yeah, not to go that traditional route and do your own thing? Obviously there's a story of like um, you know, not getting accepted to a grad job, or you applied to a bunch of places and thought there's got to be something better, I guess. But it's still a difficult choice to make.
I would say I don't like working in I don't like working with someone managing me. That's one thing is I like to do my own thing. So I don't think I'm great. If I all the managers I've had in my life, I don't think they've really liked me that much because I either can't be bothered to do the work because it's not my thing. So I've always wanted to do my own thing. I've never wanted to do something for someone else, really, unless I really believed in it. Like I'd be happy to work in a startup for someone else, but I'd have to believe in the mission and what they're doing. So I've always wanted some control, some autonomy over what I'm building, and I've always wanted to be creative. And I think a lot of the jobs at the moment they don't allow you to do that until you've been working there for a period of time. And so I decided from very young, I was like, I'm just going to do my own thing. And if I got a job, which is crazy, if I got a job in my third year and I got into the investment banking role that I was in, I would have been doing 100-hour weeks, making money for someone else, and probably making loads of money. And I probably would have fell into that trap and would have been doing that for forever. But yeah, that just never happened, and so I've just started to do my own thing. So yeah, I would say that's the main reason. I'd say I don't really like to be managed. Number two, I like to be creative and to I guess change the world. And I feel every entrepreneur, they have felt a problem and they want to solve it. They have like an emotional connection to it. And a big problem that founders get is that they're so focused on the problem and the solution, but I don't think about money. Like a lot of people think get affected by this is like they're thinking of all these ideas on how to solve it, but then it's like, okay, but how do you actually charge any money for this? How are you going to sell the business? Like what's happening in that point of view? And I do feel like that just shows how founders are just so connected to the problem and the solution that they forget about really the money aspect. And so I don't think it was ever for money why I wanted to do this. It was always because I wanted to do my own thing. But yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's always a difficult toss up. Like you become so attached to the problem, you just want to solve it for as many people, but you have to make money doing it, of course. Um,
Yeah.
and like so before you got into like the real world, like you left uni, had you started Student Venture or that happened once you left? And then
So it's been a couple of things. So it was Student Venture Capital, then it was Student Venture Recruitment, then it was Student Venture. I've no idea. I remember being at the airport with my friend, and I've always been someone. I probably anyone who's watching this and yourself, George, you've been speaking with a friend and you've got this really cool business idea, and then you never talk about it again. And I've always been the person who actually starts it. So we'll have a business idea, and then I'll be the next day. I would have had a website created. I'd have had the LinkedIn or the Instagram profile. I'll be like, "Do you want to do this?" And most people are like, "Nah, I can't be bothered." Like it was just an idea. But yeah, so we was in the airport, and I was like, let's actually do this. So we was thinking of names, and we called it Student Venture Capital, and it sounds like an investment firm rather than what we was actually doing. I don't know why we called it that. It was SVC, but it worked. It worked, and yeah, it was then that we started Student Venture Capital. But yeah, it's been many different names over the period of time, and it's been marketing, research to now recruitment. So yeah.
and it's a big change, obviously, right? From like doing that at uni and being in the airport and coming up with ideas to then actually like being out of the education system and just doing it. Like, what were some of the biggest differences like, what are some of the biggest changes that happened when that switch happened?
I would say it's so difficult. It's so difficult. The problem is when you're young, and especially if you go to university, you have a structure in place. And I think this is the biggest difference between, yeah, university, college, school to the real world is you have a structure in place. You get told what to do, where you need to go, what the goals are, and yeah, what's good. So when you're at university, you work for 3 years to achieve good grades and to try and get a first. You know what good looks like, you know what excellence looks like. And you've chosen that specific degree. So you can just walk that path, go to them lectures. But then when you go into the real world, you have an infinite number of possibilities. You can spend time doing this, doing that, spend time with family, spend time working on your business. You could spend time doing your marketing or your sales or your graphic design or improving your product. Everything is infinite. And the most difficult challenge I've had is building a structure around my life and having and trying to clear the noise because the world is as noisy as it's ever been. There's so much noise, and what I've tried to do is just get rid of the noise and to focus on what's most important. And I guess it's really just prioritizing certain things when you get into the real world and being like, I'm going to focus on two things for the next 3 years and see what happens. But that's difficult to do because you've got your phone next to you. You can watch Instagram all day, every day. You can watch a film on Netflix, or yeah, it's difficult. But that's the biggest thing I've seen is just what do you focus your time on? Because at the end of the day, I'm taking a risk. Like if this doesn't work out, I've then wasted 3, 4 years of my life not making huge amounts of money, and then I could say for what? But to add to that as well, I'm a big believer of taking risks because I wouldn't say I like to fail, but I don't discount the failure. I don't discount the what I learned from failure. So, but yeah, overall, I'd say having structure has been the most difficult thing, and I think a lot of people will find that, especially if you don't get straight into a role after university, because you leave university and now you're doing nothing for the next 6 months, and it's like,
Mm.
okay, where do I put my time? Do I go to the gym? Do I spend time like on LinkedIn applying for jobs? Where do I put my time? And I'd say that's the biggest.
How do you figure out when to put your time? Like when you first graduated, you're obviously starting a company. How do you figure out where it needs to go?
That's a good question. That's a good question, and I'm still working that out now. I've been battling certain things, I'd say, where I deleted social media for like 6 months because I was like, I'm not spending any time on this. And I back in the day, I was like, I thought I had an infinite amount of energy, so I think I could concentrate on something for all day. But I've realized that okay, that's not true. I only have like 4 or 5 hours of solid concentration. And if I'm on Instagram, that's just waste. I'm wasting my concentration, my focus. And so I kind of sat down and was like, what's taking up my time and what's not valuable? What's not improving me as a person? And the biggest one, and this is probably for everyone, is just social media. Just delete social media. Number two, the news. I don't care about the news at all because I've got a lot of friends that speak to me. They're like, "Oh, have you seen what happened here?" And I'm like, "Okay, but what are you gonna do about it? You're gonna do nothing. So why are you? You're only here once. Why are you thinking and thinking so much about things you can't do or change? It is just affecting your life and your perspective on the world." So the news, block that out. Social media, block that out. And then it's really just focusing on a couple of things where I've said I'm focused on the business and family. That's it really. Um, and that they're the things that matter the most to me, rather than all this other stuff. So again, like I don't go out that much anymore. I used to go out all the time, not anymore. Yeah, you've got to just weigh up what you actually want.
Mm.
And yeah, for me at the moment, it's just growing this business, and so I've put all my resources into that.
Say I'm a young person at uni, like, I might be in my second or third year now. I'm thinking about getting into the real world. How should I be making the most out of my time? Because I find there's like two frames of mind you can get into. A, which like I'd speak to a lot of people at uni, got into this one is this is my last year before I'm stuck in a job. I've got to full send it almost. Like I've got to make the most of the nights out. That Wednesday
Yeah,
night I can't miss. Or
yeah.
it's like, uh, people are wired the other way. What do you think people should do? Like, if you were to advise someone that wants to get a graduate job, what steps do they need to take?
I would say everyone's different, and I'd say follow your gut. I think there's a book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. There is power in not really caring, right? Like, don't get stressed up every day thinking about this problem, this thing, and just do your thing. You can go that way through life, and it will probably work. It generally works out for you. And so I battle this all the time. It's like, am I just wasting my time worrying about a problem, or yeah, all of the time? And you have people that just go through life with not many worries. They become really successful, and you can do that as well. So yeah, I don't think there's one way into success, and I'd say just follow your gut. Like if you want to go out, go out. In my opinion, it's probably not the best thing to say, but you're only at university once, right? And you could do all of the work in third year, apply for all of the jobs, spend all your time revising, getting a first, and still be fucked after uni anyway. So in my head, it's follow your gut, see what you want to do. You know more than me that on what you're good at, what you can't do, etc., and about your own life. And a lot of the things I've realized as well is don't really take advice. Like I bet on Instagram you're on Instagram all the time and you're watching these videos where everyone's giving you advice, either on a podcast or on a video or in a book. Everyone's there giving advice, and I feel like there's so much advice, and there's probably so much advice you've already watched and seen that now you have all the information. It's now really just just taking action. But yeah, that I'd probably say that. I don't know, just follow
No,
your
it's
gut.
cool. Yeah, I think it's learning to think for yourself as well is the big thing. Like you said, you need to have a almost like a wall in place between the things that you hear online and what someone tells you should be doing versus what you actually do. It's not just like this person says that I should do it. Even same thing with your parents, same thing with a founder that you massively admire. It's like you still got to have something there that makes you ask a question internally of they're telling me to do X, Y, Z. Is that really what I should be doing? So I think that's powerful.
I'd say as well, do what others aren't doing. That's the easiest way to succeed, is do what others aren't doing. Because if you see everyone's going into PwC, personally I wouldn't go into PwC because there's too much competition. There's a book called Red Ocean, Blue Ocean, and make sure you're in the blue ocean. And there's a saying of Peter Thiel. He's like, competition's for losers, right? Why are you competing with 1,000 people for one role? Do something else. So that's my advice, is do what others aren't doing, and that could be either through a job simulation or doing a project or doing an intro video or doing something other than just putting your CV into the company, for example. So that would be my advice as well, is yeah, play it smart, and yeah, it is a game at the end of the day. Even if that's the startup world or trying to get a job, it's all a game, and you need to sit back and work out where you're going to make your best move.
Something I think it at least looks like from the outside with what you guys are up to at Student Venture and also you is that you've got like good at this, like almost the art of networking, you could call it, right? Like for instance, you're partnered with Uni Days, doing some stuff with Simon Squibb. You got a bunch of applicants coming in for a startup challenge you guys are doing. I think networking is something that students obviously need to get good at, but like, how do they start and what does it look like getting to a point where you can make deals and do partnerships like that?
I would say you need to realize that when you're young, just after university, all you have to show is your degree. And I'm a big advocate in doing more at university. So, and this is why we built Student Venture, because we don't think a degree is enough. And so, create videos, create your portfolio, try and start some businesses, and just do more. Once you've got that, you'll enter the world with more value than what you would have had with just a degree. Number one. If you want to network with people as well, you need to have a vision. What I've found with Student Venture is I come in as I come in and speak to these very important people, and I do it and I get in the door through Student Venture. If I didn't have Student Venture, I'm a nobody, because I'm only 24, just come out of university, but Student Venture is bigger than who I am. And so Student Venture is solving this huge problem, nationwide, worldwide, next £100 million business. That is what comes in the door, not just me. And so you need to have something to sell or to showcase to the world other than just help me, if that makes sense. Because at the end of the day, who are you? Like, you've just got a degree, you're like every single person in the world at your age. What are you putting through the door, and what are you actually showcasing to the world? And I would say it is a tough world out there, and it is difficult. But yeah, just do more, I would say, and that's how I've met so many people. Also, I do believe if you knock, the door will open as well. So it's crazy how many people are willing to help. I do believe people are naturally good and they want to help people. And so if you ask the right people at the right time, they are looking to help. But you can't just be like, fix my life or get me a job. You need to really ask them questions they can really help with, I guess. Like if you're talking to the Deputy Mayor of London, if you say, okay, can you get me a job? He's probably going to be like, how am I going to get you a job? But if you ask him the right questions and say, can you help me with this specific thing? He probably will. You just need to ask. And yeah, that would probably be my advice is build something and then you'll be able to get into rooms.
Yeah, I think there's some good cold truths in there. I think, like you said, one of the big things is almost most people do something because there's something in it for them. And so when you're sitting down with someone new for the first time, like before every call that I get on, the questions I'm asking myself is like, how do I want this person to feel after this call? What do I want them to feel about me and the way that I came across? How do I give them something that makes them go like, oh, like that adds value to my life and like would change something about the way I do things and could be really cool. Let me have another conversation. I think if you can do things like that, like, and put yourself in that position, that's powerful. Because getting the network is one thing, but then, as a young person, you want to impress them. You don't just want to look like every other young person. So you got to get some reps somewhere, somehow to impress people. And like, that's what opens up the door. Like when you get off a call with someone and they leave it thinking, gosh, that person was like motivated and smart and cared about me more than they cared about themselves. I'd talk to them again.
I agree. I think you've hit the nail on the head with that as well. It's hard to do, but it's quite easy as well. Just to showcase that you're actively listening, you're motivated, and you are, I guess, yeah, just energetic. And it's not really hard to do. It's just simple foundations. But if you do that with someone who's someone high up, or you'll leave an impression on them because, yeah, they probably have had a lot of meetings with people like just a bit depressed and not that happy. And then if you brighten up their day in a way, they'll remember that. So I do think that's very important.
Yeah, but you're gonna have bad calls still. Like I still have bad calls now. Like even last Friday, like I had this guy who even like scheduled time with me, and then we get on the call and he's like, why are we talking again? I explain it to him. He's like, I haven't got time for your research project. And I'm like, damn. But then you just got to lean into that stuff. So I then message him afterwards and I'm like, hey, sorry if I caught you at a bad time. Like, hope the rest of your day goes great. Just thought there might be something worth exploring with XYZ. And so, like, in those moments of failure, like, you can still reframe that stuff and see it very positively, which, like, I think ties in a lot to what you've done at StudentVenture. Like you said, it was StudentVenture company and StudentVenture research or whatever else it was. That ability to pivot and adapt, I think, is something a lot of young people struggle with. So how do you get good at that? Like being able to just change up and do something different or adapt?
I'm a skeptical person. Like I'm very not a certain person, if that makes sense. And that's a good quality and a bad quality. I am someone who is always second guessing myself. I'm like, is this right? Is this perfect? And so it's a good thing and a bad thing, because on the flip side, you've got people who are, this is 100% right, and they're so focused and they're so narrow-minded, and generally they're not on the right path. And you could say whatever you want to them, and they'll be like, no, this is the right way. This is the right way. I'm just going to continue. I'm slightly different in a way where I'll look at my product and I'll be thinking, I'll be there basically for the last 2 years. I've been there, like, is this good? Is this not? Where can I improve it? And I'm always second guessing myself. And with that, I think that leads me to ask a lot of questions. Especially, I've got a team of advisors. I've got a lot of customers at the moment. So always just asking questions. Is this good? Is this not? And taking their advice. I think that's led me to change. And what's good with a startup as well is you can change things very quickly. Like if you've got the right team and you've got everyone invested, you could be like, this ain't working, let's focus on this. Or this isn't working, let's focus on this. And you can switch things up. You can change things in weeks, in less than a week, in days, really. So yeah, I'd probably say that. Also, I do believe, and what I've realized as well is I know nothing as well. Like I absolutely know nothing. And I was when I was in college, I was like, okay, I'll study physics. I'm going to become a physicist, and then I'll know the meaning of the universe. I'll actually understand this world a little bit more. But then, as I've learned more, I've realized I don't know anything, and so you need to take advice of people, those that have done it, those that have been in that position. Just take as much advice as you can, but from specific people, because I know earlier I said don't take advice. But I think don't take advice of people online. Take advice of people that you actually care about and who you know, rather than just watching Instagram videos. Because yeah, so that's what I'd probably say, is that realize that you might not know anything, and listen to people that you care about and who you look up to, and yeah, just second guess yourself sometimes as well, because you're not always right.
Cool. I love it. And something I think we got to touch on is the world of landing jobs is changing a lot at the moment. There's a lot of different companies trying to support students. The way that students land jobs is a tough game as well at the moment. What do you think needs to change? Like, what's wrong with the current system of how young people are landing jobs?
I'd say number one, hiring someone early is risky. And what I've found from doing B2B sales is large companies do not like risk. And that's the difference between a startup and a large business. They would rather take the less risky route and pay more. So they would rather pay someone £10,000 a year and get guaranteed results, rather than paying £2,000 a year and having a 70% chance of that result happening. And I think that's where we are at the moment, is these large corporations, these medium-sized businesses, they don't want to take risks. And so they're not hiring young people. So then you think, okay, how do you reduce the risk of each hire? And so what we've seen is there is an asymmetric information problem, and companies are spending, or either just using their CV or doing an interview, these old fashioned ways to recruit, to then be like, okay, this guy's perfect. He's got a good CV, he went to this university, and he was good for the 30-minute video that we had. He's now hired. But that's taking a big leap, because you've only really spoken to this guy for 30 minutes to an hour, and you know he went to this university and he did some of this stuff. That's high risk, in my opinion. And so we need to try and reduce the risk for these large businesses. And we can't just say it's your fault, but it's your fault, large business, for not hiring these people. Okay, it's not really their fault, because again, they don't want to take the risk. So how do we reduce the risk? Well, symmetric information. We get as much information from these people as possible. So not just the CV, but their story, their dissertation, their projects. We motivate them to do that stuff, and then there's less risk. Okay, that's cool. So that's from the symmetric information aspect. Also, we need to upskill these students and these young people, because universities are very slow, and they do not change their curriculum at all for years and years and years and years. And so we need to upskill them ourselves. And this is similar to what George is doing as well, is how do we upskill these people? Well, you can do job simulations, where you can give them courses and specific material to then allow them to be better in the world. Again, that reduces the risk. And so they're probably the things we're doing at StudentVenture at the moment. It's still a very difficult one, because it depends which country you're in, but there's so many people in the UK and so little jobs that it's going to be impossible, in my opinion, at the moment, to motivate every single company to hire everyone who's unemployed. That's an impossible task. But it's about how do we do our best to solve this, and how do we help as many people as possible? And that's the mission we're on. And it's clear that the recruitment is obsolete. And I really find it upsetting, where you've got someone applying for thousands of jobs, or hundreds of jobs. You've got them sending their cover letters, doing intro video, or interviews after interviews, and they don't hear back. And they're going through a lot. Like, it's very difficult, and it's a horrible place to be in. And so we're trying to solve that as well, because if you've got a centralized platform where you upload all of your information, you then don't have to constantly look on Indeed, etc., etc. You will be found for who you are. And that's one thing that we're looking to do as well, is really you don't have to look consistently for opportunities all of the time. You can be found for who you are. So yeah, but again, I don't know. It's a very difficult challenge. Do you have any ideas, George, like on that?
Look, I think that it's an interesting world that we're in. A lot needs to change. I think that it stems from the way companies hire. If you can rewire the things that they're focused on and looking at and change it away from a university proxy and how well they do in their degree and the grades they get and focus it on skills, then the education system as it is has to rewire and figure out how to train people on the things that actually matter. And like you see this trend already, like employers are moving towards skill first hiring more and more because they know that it's skills that make a difference. It's like 85% of on the job performance is how skilled you are in the core set of skills that make a difference. 15% is the knowledge that you have and like the degree that you got that makes a difference. And so these companies that do these degrees in the education system as a whole needs a lot of change. And I think that'll fix a lot of things, but it's a slow, like, there's a lot of companies trying to deal with and combat this. And I think it just needs to continue, hopefully. But I mean, based on that, like, what are some of the things that you think employers are looking for? Like when you chat to employers, when you chat to students, what are the stuff that make an employer go, yes, like we need this young person working for us?
I would say number one is, I think sales, to be honest with you. I think someone who's really good at sales, everyone needs a salesperson. So if you are lucky enough, well, I guess you don't have to be. If you work as well and you become really good at sales, then you're in a really good place, because everyone needs a salesperson. Everyone likes a salesperson, basically, especially for your company if you're good, because you generate revenue for them. Second off, very it's very difficult, because I would say you have to be hyper specific in one area, but then with AI coming out, there's a lot of arguments saying you need to be a generalist. You need to have an idea of many different things rather than being specific in one. For example, like law. You can get AI to do some specific things in law for you, but do you have like that overarching perspective on, does it connect to this, to this, to this, to this? And I think having an understanding of a lot of different areas will become more important. But again, that's in the grey, and I don't think we'll know until it actually happens. But I would really say just work on what's real. And I do think as we focus more in technology, we're losing that human touch. And I think there will be a pivot where people really want to spend more time with people in person. They are going to look more for them social skills, because that's going to be more valuable as they die, and as AI can't really do that. And so I would lean in, if I was anyone, into your personality, into the social skills, and into your sales skills. That's what I would lean into a lot more, because that's what's different from you to the AI, basically, is who you are actually as a person. Not just, I'm amazing at AI development, or I'm amazing at graphic design. Okay, cool, but what actually makes you human? And I think that's very important when you're hiring someone, especially when it's a startup or your manager at a large company. They want to get along with you. They want to have a good chat with you, and they don't want to hire someone they don't get along with. And so I'll definitely work on that if you're young. So speak to as many people as possible, and yeah, just practice things, and yeah,
I think
I
that's
think
yeah.
yeah.
I think that's really big is like don't sound and act like a robot. Like that every single CV and all I talk to employers about on like a discovery call or a call where I'm learning about their hiring process or they're learning about what we're doing is they say every CV looks the same, all the interviews feel the same, everyone's got the same things to say. No one really stands out or looks that different. We just bring people through. But the reality is, 50% of the people that we don't let through could also do the job. It's that competitive. And so
Yeah.
when you look at that and see that the baselines are so level, you got to do something or be different or have something nuanced to say about yourself in an interview. Like a big one that my friend used to have is when this was a friend that I was training to do the big run with, and he'd show up to every interview. They're like, tell us something interesting about you. And he says that he's training for this outrageously long run, and instantly it's like they're not going to speak to another applicant doing that. So like find some little like spark. I feel like is a good piece of advice.
100%. 100%. I would advise people as well, get off ChatGPT and Gemini or whatever you use. Get off there and actually learn how to write and think for yourself, because I'm getting into that. Like I have to stop myself and be like, actually, I need to think for myself rather than
Bro,
using Gemini to think for me.
this is
So
why we run the simulations. Like like you said, we have so many students sit them who try and get AI to do all the problem solving for them.
mm,
And so like I think it's very easy to retreat to that because it's what you know best. But it's way more ineffective because unsurprisingly, AI cannot solve problems as good as you. And like it shouldn't be able to, especially if you use an unprompted chat GPT. It's like you're set up for failure, really.
yeah. Like, and that's why I'm not a fan of cover letters, because they're all GPT written, number one. I will ask for an intro video, and what they've done is they've written a prompt and then created a script from ChatGPT, and then they've read the scripts of ChatGPT. So the CV they've spent time on, to be fair, but then the cover letter is ChatGPT. What they've written, they're talking is ChatGPT. It's like I just want to see your personality. I want to see what makes you you. And that's what we're focusing on at Student Venture is we want to see the images, the videos of what you've done. Where's the journey? Because if you've come from nothing to something, that is huge. That's huge, especially when you're only 24. And so we want to see that, because that's attractive compared to being absolutely perfect. And so what makes you an individual? And lean, again, I think the students should lean on that. Don't, and it's like, what ChatGPT does at the end of the day is it just goes to the mean. So it doesn't create anything that's different. It always goes to the mean and what's average, from the prompt that you give it. And so it's very difficult to, yeah, to be an individual if you're reading stuff through a prompt that you've put through. So my overall advice was lean into being an individual, and yeah, stop using ChatGPT as much as possible.
You know how there's apps and like, have you seen this ad for that thing that you like brick your phone and like you can't use your phone for like 2 hours or something,
Yeah.
and then you get access to it? Like, I'm pretty certain that a future business idea that's going to exist is like it's going to be a blocker for your AI tools, and you'll like switch them off for dedicated periods of you actually using your brain to solve something or do something, and it just won't let you have access.
I
I think it'd be
agree.
brilliant.
It's a good idea. I think you should start on it, George.
Yeah, there we go.
Multi-million-pound idea.
Another
Um,
pivot. Another pivot.
um, yeah, because it's so attractive. It's so attractive to just do it, because especially if you're creating an article or you're thinking of anything really, or like a problem that's happening, even just in the business or in your life, it's easier just to not think about it, put in a prompt and it will tell you the answer. But there's value in the thinking process, because then you learn how to think and you understand how you got to that place rather than getting there instantly. Yeah, there's huge amounts of value, and it is very attractive. Especially, again, I was using it yesterday. I was writing an article, and I was like, I could easily just use ChatGPT or Gemini, and it would create me 2,000 words like this, and then I'm done. Then I can go to sleep. But I'm like, no, let me actually think, and then you're always like, people won't know if I'm using the AI to create my content, but you do know it is slightly different. Like I can tell if someone's used ChatGPT or Gemini, even if you do take away them dashes, like you still can tell from the writing.
Yeah, it's got to be a thought partner. Like
Mm.
you know, get it as far as you can without having AI intervene, and then have one that's really well prompted. Like I build a few, basically my strategy is there's this thing called Anna's Archives. You can get all these great books on it for free as a PDF download. And so I'll create one which is like my sales advisor, give it 10 of the
Mm.
best sales books I know, and then I'll submit like an email I'm going to send or a something I'm going to send somewhere already written, and I say, hey, give me feedback on this. Does it suck? Is it good? What do you think I should be doing better? So then you can learn the techniques as well. And like I'll prompt it to say, tell me where you got this information from in the books that I gave you and the techniques that you want me to use. And like I think if you use it that way, you use it in a way that supports your learning. You'll find yourself talking to other people about those things.
Mm.
We could do a whole podcast on that. But Liam, we're coming to the end, so I want to give students like and young people and anyone listening like a last snippet of something that's really valuable. You know, if you were 18, 19, 20, 21 again, what skills would you be focusing on developing right now and getting great at?
It's a difficult one because I'm 24 and those who are 6 years younger than me have lived a completely different journey as I have. Even though it's only 6 years, it's massive. And in the time they're 24, the world will change massively. And so there's no specific advice I could give anyone. What we've done at Student Venture is we've done is given the medium. We've given the medium to showcase themselves. We haven't really advised them to be like, this is the skill you're going to have, because we don't know. But what we've done is these individuals will think for themselves, they will create the stuff they need to create, and they will do it themselves, and it will naturally occur. All they need is the medium, and that's what we've done as a company. I think if anyone's watching this, or if you're in this scenario, again, just I think in your gut you know what you need to do and what's right, and don't worry too much. You're only 18, like you're only 24. Like don't worry, like it's not that bad. It's not that difficult. I think a lot of people make their own problems in life, and so my advice, I've got no clear skills really other than leaning to your personality and who you are. But yeah, I think anyone who's watching, just follow your gut and you'll get somewhere. But again, don't worry too much. Don't compare yourself to others. Like that just creates anxiety, stress, and it's just yeah, you don't need that. Just yeah, just focus on yourself.
That's a gem. Yeah, think for yourself. I think it's powerful. But cool, Liam, it's been awesome. You're going to see some cool stuff coming out over this next month or so with RecruitGrads and Student Venture. You'll see some like simulation stuff popping up and some events maybe going live. So keep an eye out for them as well. If you're like in the startup scene, Liam, where can people go to learn more about, you know, Student Ventures, stuff you're doing, events going on?
Well, yeah, so studentventure.io if you want to create an account. We're on LinkedIn, so you just follow me on LinkedIn, Liam Jeffery. On Instagram as well, Student Venture app. We're doing, like George said in the beginning, we're doing some entrepreneurship events and we're doing a lot of events with George as well, hopefully in the next month. And so there's a lot of stuff happening. We're doing a lot of hackathons, competitions, jobs, projects, etc. So yeah, just find us on Student Venture or just connect with me on LinkedIn.
Great. Awesome. It's been fun. Thanks a lot, Liam.
Thank you, George. Thanks for having me. Cheers.